friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time, and I'm here for another this and that video, which if you're new, this is basically a weekly vlog where I cover a whole bunch of different topics, unlike some of my other videos that are one topic only type videos. So I'm just letting you know what's going on around here, maybe keeping you informed of videos to come, as well as directing you back to some old videos I have on how to do some of the things I might be showing you today. So let's start off by talking about this orange peel fermentation starter. So yesterday, as you can see back here, I got some more kimchi going, and this is a red and green cabbage kimchi with carrots and onions, garlic, and of course cayenne pepper and red pepper flakes. And I've been craving kimchi a lot lately, so I needed to get some going. Well, anyway, this had been a berry fermentation starter, and I used most of it up, and the berries in there, it was raspberry, I think. The berries in there were pretty well broken down. So what I did was I strained all that out. I ended up with only, after doing that and straining out the berries, I only had a little bit of starter left. So I decided just to refresh it and basically make it a new starter. Well, since we've finally been able to get a hold of some organic oranges locally again, we've been buying up quite a bit of them because, you know, we love to eat oranges, and these have been some really tasty ones. They're just your standard navel oranges, but they've been very sweet and good and organic. Organic oranges here are pretty expensive because we're so remote anyway. But so I like to make the most out of those and use the peels for many different things food related. So I decided to try something new that I haven't done yet with the orange peels and use that to make a fermentation starter. So I put quite a bit in there, so hopefully it won't make it bitter, because I never remove the pith from my orange peels. And I have a video on that I did fairly recently on how I use orange peels. I'm dehydrating them up to use in various different things. Teas, extracts, flavorings for chocolate and icings and so on. But I'll link to that video down below. So I think I go through most, if not all, the different things I use the orange peels for. So anyway, that's what's going on here. And then my other starter, this is the one I started last spring. I'll show you what it looked like when I first started it right here in this image. Look at the difference in color. That's because this, like I said, this is almost a year old right now, and it's still good. So those are clovers and dandelions in there. So once my red clover and dandelion starts blooming again, I think what I'm going to do is strain this out and put in some fresh flowers. But yes, you can extend your fermentation starter out and make it last for years. It doesn't matter if you make it from ginger, apples, raspberries, blueberries, raisins, it doesn't matter, whatever you choose, any kind of herb. And if you're interested in how to do that, I have a very in-depth video on how to get a fermentation starter going. It's very easy, very inexpensive, because you just use whatever you have on hand. And on that note, I did shoot a video. It actually was an hour long to start with. That's the longest I ever talked in a video that I just shot like that. And it's about common fermenting problems. I managed to get it down to 40 minutes. So that's going to be coming out in the near future, but still, even though my videos are on the longer side anyway, that's probably the longest one I've ever done. And I still didn't cover everything, and I'll be doing more videos like that. So anyway, yep, you saw the kimchi, got that going. So that'll be a couple more days yet since I got it started yesterday. And it looks really good right now. I can hardly wait. Yeah, it's already starting to bubble. It's not really bubbly because it's only been about 24 hours, but in a couple more days it should be very bubbly. And then the other thing I did was, as I said in that garden update video I did get the juniper vinegar started. Now, when you're making vinegar out of things like juniper, cedar, I do find it's a little more tricky because you got to really keep an eye on it. And my hypothesis on this is that these are the kind of things that are really high in antibiotic, antimicrobial properties, which can slow or even kill a ferment if you're not careful. So I'm adding a little sugar, even though I started off with about a half cup of sugar on the first day. What I'm doing each day is stirring it and adding just a little bit more sugar. And one of the other things I did differently for this, just to make sure it's going to keep fermenting and get fermenting, was I added a fermentation starter, some of that to this too, about a quarter cup. So normally I don't use fermentation starters to get my vinegar going, but you can. It's not going to hurt anything, and it's for as easy and cheap as these are to make and keep up on. that's something you can consider doing if you're, especially if you're having issues getting your vinegar going. And then right here, I've got my chamber. I just vacuum sealed. In fact, it's still showing it's pumped up to where I left it because I haven't touched it. It's been sitting there for several minutes like this. But I just vacuum sealed some walnuts into a recycled green olive jar. So there we go. I got that opened up. Sometimes you won't hear, if you're going to hear the tink on the lid, a lot of times it doesn't happen until you go to open the chamber. And so there it is, and it's very well sealed. I can't budge this thing. But anyway, now this will go back in food storage with the rest of my nuts. And I also have a new video coming out very soon where I try to cover everything about the vacuum chamber for those who are interested, or those who bought one or maybe having some issues trying to get it to work. Nothing wrong with the chamber. It's just make sure you're getting that lid down tight enough and so on. So I do try to cover all that in that video, as well as just how to use it. And I love this thing. I've been using it quite a bit. In fact, now I'm using this more, even though it takes a little longer to pump it up than using the Food Saver tops. I find myself using this more, and I always just keep my brake bleeder connected to it because it's just easier that way than taking it apart. One more thing about fermenting before I forget. Back there, I've got an empty jug. I'm going to be starting another batch of raspberry mead using some of the Mother Earth Products freeze-dried raspberries. I never updated you on the cherry one, the sour cherry mead that I made. While it turned out okay, I was worried this would happen, even though I love the flavor of the freeze-dried sour cherries just to snack on. As far as making a mead out of it, it did kind of end up tasting like cough syrup. And when I was a kid, I never, ever liked the flavor of cherry cough syrup. So it's not that bad, but it still kind of has that bit of a flavor to it that I'm not super crazy about it, but that's okay because those are the kind that get used in other things like adding to Italian sauces and things like that. But the raspberry one using the freeze-dried raspberries turned out good. Now, it was only more recently I started using freeze-dried fruits for making meads and experimenting with that. Up until then, I always used fresh fruits from my garden or whatever I could get from the store and experimented and made all different kinds of flavors doing that. Meads are usually just honey and water and whatever you're using for a fermentation starter. I have a video on just how to make fruit flavored meads, and I will link to that down below as well. In fact, what I'll do is link to the whole winemaking playlist, and you can go into that playlist and you'll also find the video that's specifically about making the mead. And another thing I wanted to talk about was this is a time of year I'm most likely to start using my own homemade sinus rinse. Now, I remember back about, what was it, maybe 20 years ago, it was the big thing to go buy or even get from your doctor a specific sinus rinse, and some of the stuff they put in there I just would avoid. We've always just made our own and found it to be very helpful. And so what I like to use is just some slightly warmed filtered rainwater plus a little bit of salt. I'll go ahead and link to the video I did, it was about a year or so ago. And then I put in a little bit of colloidal silver. And then I'm really liking this. So you can get those little squirt bottles that are made specifically for that. And we used to use those. I'm actually finding I like the neti pot a lot better. It's a lot more gentle. You're not as likely to, like when you're using the squeeze bottle, you can squeeze too hard and really push the water up too far into your sinuses and it gets trapped up there and can give you headaches. So the neti pot is definitely a better option if you're going to start doing the sinus rinses, but it's a really great natural way to help, especially during the time of the year where either you're suffering from allergies, most likely because there's pollens and things flying around. This will help rinse that out, but it's also very helpful during a time of year when viruses are going around. And things like colloidal silver, colloidal copper specifically is good on viruses. So if you're just putting a little bit of that into your sinus rinse, that's going to help kill any viruses that might already be trapped in your sinuses. So I recommend doing that. I just find it really helps, especially during the time of the year where I'm having more issues with allergies, which is late winter, early spring. And I don't take any allergy medicine. I used to years ago, but when I stopped taking allergy medicine, just over the counter, I started doing better. I stopped having as many issues with my allergies. Go figure. And then just doing more natural things like the sinus rinse and some other things, you know, taking some as local as you can, raw honey every day can also be very helpful for managing seasonal allergies. Okay, then another thing is that these are eggs from our own chickens from 2 years ago. You can see right there, 2019, and I never used any last year because I stored so many up, and because we added some new chickens to the flock that year. We had chickens laying through the whole winter, so these never got used. In fact, our chickens spread out so well this year in the way that they laid that I didn't need to dig into these this year. However, I need to work through them because they've been in there for 2 years. So, and I would like to restock that with the 2021 eggs. This is just the way I personally prefer to freeze and preserve our excess eggs. We're all going to have our different ways. There's the water glass method. I read all about it. I haven't tried it. I have my reasons for not going that way, but I might someday. And then there's also that same method using a lime. And there's other channels that do talk about this. Some people choose to freeze their eggs individually into ice cube trays. I tried that, was not happy with the results. And also one thing you gotta realize, one thing I've seen a lot of people talk about all the way across the board, freezing your eggs whole instead of scrambling them first can cause the yolks to take on a very weird consistency. So that might not be the way you want to go, but I pre-scramble them. I lay them flat when they're freezing, and then once they're frozen, I'll stand them up like this or to keep them laid flat, depending on how I've got them arranged in the freezer. The wonderful thing about freezing them like this pre-scrambled is they're ready to go. If you're going to make an omelet or just scrambled eggs, if you're going to use them to make mayonnaise, I found the pre-frozen eggs like this work perfect for making mayonnaise. In fact, better than fresh eggs for some reason. I don't know why that is, but they just seem to work better for making the mayonnaise. And making cakes, making whatever it is that you're going to add eggs to, they're already ready to go. Obviously, if you want to use eggs for meringue, that's not going to work that way, so you have to separate your eggs out if you're going to do that, and then, you know, freeze your whites separately. I just used up last night the last of my 2019 peppermint for making teas, because mint tea is our favorite, peppermint tea in particular. So I'm opening a jar of my 2020 peppermint, and this is the jar I always keep in here on that shelf back there that Patrick made. And it's a good thing my mints are starting to grow. I do have several jars that I put up of my 2020 mints. However, like I say, we drink a lot of mint tea. The good thing is when the mints are coming in fresh, I will make tea out of them fresh while I'm also dehydrating it much during the day. So that's one of the top herbs that I'm dehydrating all through the spring and summer as soon as it starts growing. And then I just put this lid back on there, and then this is the jar we work through currently. And I don't remember how many more jars I have back there, but I do have several. Thankfully, I'll have enough definitely to get us through until we got it coming in fresh. And then I can start dehydrating up the 2021. And I'll be doing more dehydrating videos this year like I do every year. So if you're new to that, you can see how I do it. I do change things up a little bit each year or start dehydrating new things that I either wasn't growing the previous year or just new things I hadn't thought to dehydrate before. And then I wanted to show you real quick, I just got this from one of our followers. There's two of them. And these doilies, they're beautiful. And I'm not sure where she got them. These weren't handmade. But she thought she just sent us a really nice letter. And she thought I would like these. And I do. I love them. My problem is I'm not really sure where to put them yet. I want them to be seen. And I think, you know, laying them on a table and then you put something on top. But I really don't want to cover up the chickens. They're so cute. I love these. So I'm trying to figure out, do we want to make some kind of wall hanging? What do we want to do with these? Because I really like them. I want them to be able to be seen, and I don't want to ruin them. So if anybody's got some great ideas for me, and thank you for that kind lady that sent those to us, and for the very nice letter. I did appreciate that very much. All right, well, that's it for my this and that video for the week. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to check out the links down below. Thanks for watching. Take care, and God bless.